Let's talk about what happens when a government policy slams into an entire industry. Imagine the hum of machines, the steady rhythm of workers on the line, and the sense of stability that comes from decades of careful planning. Now picture all of that being thrown into chaos overnight. The Trump administration's new tariffs hit the auto sector with a 25% tax on all imported cars and parts. That means every vehicle, every bolt, every electronic chip crossing the border just got a lot more expensive. It's not just a policy change, it's a seismic shift for an industry that relies on global connections. This isn't a minor tweak, it's a shockwave that's upended every automaker in the US assembly lines that once ran like clockwork are now facing uncertainty, and workers who once felt secure are suddenly worried about their future. The goal? Protect American jobs. The reality? Chaos. Stock markets react with wild swings, and the mood on the factory floor turns from hopeful to anxious. Imagine the auto industry as a Jenga tower, every part, factory, and worker carefully balanced. Each piece is essential, and the whole structure depends on everything fitting together just right. Now, someone's kicked the table. The tower wobbles and pieces start to fall. That's what a sudden 25% tariff feels like to the people who build our cars. Suddenly, a car door from Mexico or an engine from Japan costs a quarter more. The price tags shoot up, and the cost of making a car in America skyrockets almost overnight. Companies that spent decades building global supply chains are now scrambling to rethink everything. Boardrooms are filled with urgent meetings, supply chain managers are redrawing maps, and engineers are searching for alternatives that may not even exist. Do they eat the cost, pass it to consumers, or shut down lines? Each option comes with its own set of risks, none of them easy, and all of them painful. None of these choices are good. Workers fear layoffs, showrooms empty out, and factories face the real possibility of closing their doors for good. Dealerships worry about inventory piling up, suppliers face canceled orders, and American workers are caught in the crossfire, unsure if their next paycheck will come. This isn't a theoretical debate, it's a real crisis in factory towns and showrooms across the country. Families, communities, and entire local economies are feeling the impact. The tariff hammer has dropped, and the industry is left picking up the pieces. It's a spectacular mess, one that will take years to clean up with consequences that reach far beyond the factory floor. When a policy this big hits, there are immediate victims, like Nissan and Subaru. These companies, with deep roots in the US auto market, suddenly found themselves on the front lines of a global economic battle. Blindsided by a policy shift, they had little power to influence. Both rely heavily on importing vehicles and parts from abroad. Their supply chains stretch across continents, with critical components sourced from specialized factories in Asia and Europe, making them especially vulnerable to any disruption in international trade. The 25% tariff was a direct hit, sending their costs soaring overnight. Suddenly, every shipment of parts and every finished vehicle crossing the border came with a hefty new price tag, forcing executives to scramble for solutions. Suddenly, bringing models like the Subaru Outback or Nissan Rogue to US customers became far more expensive. Dealerships faced sticker shock, and buyers hesitated as prices climbed, threatening sales and market share. They couldn't just absorb the cost, it threatened their entire US business. Margins shrank, profits evaporated, and the pressure to cut expenses mounted, putting jobs and investments at risk. Production slowed, orders for imported parts were slashed, and factories idled. Assembly lines that once hummed with activity now sat eerily quiet as uncertainty rippled through the workforce. It's like running a pizzeria after cheese prices quadruple. Either stop making pizzas or charge a fortune. For automakers, the choice was equally grim. Pass costs to customers, risking sales, or cut back production and jobs. For Nissan, this meant slowing US production. For Subaru, it meant rethinking how many cars they could even afford to import. Both companies had to make tough decisions about their future in the American market. This wasn't a distant political headline, it was a direct assault on their ability to operate. Every day, managers faced tough choices, and workers worried about their livelihoods. Nissan and Subaru, employing thousands of Americans, were among the first caught in the crossfire. Families and communities that depended on these jobs felt the impact almost immediately. Their struggles were a warning. These tariffs weren't just hurting foreign competitors, they were damaging companies deeply embedded in the American economy. The ripple effects spread to suppliers, dealerships, and local businesses. They were the canaries in the coal mine. Their troubles signaled deeper problems that could soon affect the entire industry, and they were looking very sick. The warning signs were clear. If these companies faltered, many more could follow, making the cost of a trade war painfully real for everyone. When factories slow down, it's not just numbers, it's people. The most brutal consequence, an estimated 40,000 jobs lost across the American auto sector. Assembly line workers, parts suppliers, dealership staff, all hit. These were the very jobs the tariffs were supposed to protect. The losses rippled outward. Suppliers lost orders, trucking firms had fewer cars to move, local diners lost customers. A policy meant to shield American workers became a sword. Instead of a manufacturing boom, companies made cuts. 40,000 people who had jobs are now looking for work, all thanks to a policy that promised prosperity. The stories are heartbreaking. Skilled workers with years of experience now face an uncertain future. They were told American manufacturing was the priority, only to lose their jobs in a trade war. Behind every number is a life turned upside down. Economic policies have real human consequences, and in this case, the consequences have been devastating. Automakers faced three bad choices: eat the cost, raise prices, or run away. Absorbing the tariff meant selling cars at a loss, unsustainable for most. Passing the cost to consumers meant a $30,000 car could jump to $37,500 overnight. That's a huge risk in a price-sensitive market. Customers might just walk away. The third option? Pull models from the US market or move production stateside. Some, like Aston Martin, halted imports immediately. Others considered building new US factories, a multi-billion-dollar years-long gamble. Some tried to soften the blow with discounts, others froze, waiting to see if the policy would stick. Every automaker was trapped in the same impossible dilemma: go broke, alienate customers, or make a risky bet on the future. None of these are good ways to run a business. The industry was forced into high-stakes decisions with no easy answers. It's a terrible way to manage an economy, and the fallout is everywhere. Some companies saw opportunity in the chaos. If you already had big US factories, the tariffs made you look smart. Honda and Mercedes-Benz, with billions invested in American plants, doubled down. They shifted even more production to the US, assembling models here instead of importing. Why pay a 25% tax when you can build in Alabama or Ohio? This move kept their prices stable and gave them a competitive edge. Mercedes ramped up SUV production in Tuscaloosa. Honda did the same across its US plants. The tariffs became a catalyst to accelerate localization. They still faced chaos for imported parts, but their US investments paid off. In a game where everyone was losing, they found a way to lose less. Their long-term bets on American manufacturing suddenly looked brilliant. In crisis, corporate executives talk a lot. As the tariff chaos unfolded, CEOs rushed to reassure everyone, "We're committed to American jobs." Publicly, they projected calm and patriotism, emphasizing their deep roots in US manufacturing. Privately, they lobbied furiously to get the tariffs reversed. Their statements were carefully crafted. Don't attack the policy, but explain the turmoil. "Our primary goal is to safeguard American jobs," they said. It sounds great, but it sidesteps the reality. These companies were desperate to survive. The sweet talk was all about managing perception. By repeating their dedication to the US, they hoped to align with the policy's goals, even as it wreaked havoc on their operations. It's a delicate dance, every word chosen for damage control. Beneath the polished statements, the message was clear. The industry was in deep trouble, and they were scrambling for a way out. While the US auto industry was in turmoil, Canada was spared. The tariffs targeted overseas imports, not North American partners. Thanks to trade agreements, cars and parts flowed freely between the US and Canada. For Canadian factories, it was business as usual. While US plants slowed, Canadian ones kept running smoothly. The integrated supply chain between the two countries worked as designed. Canadian auto workers weren't facing the same layoffs. The contrast was stark: chaos in the US, stability in Canada. Automakers now see Canada as a stable, reliable place to do business. It's a real-world lesson in how regional trade agreements foster stability. What does all this mean for you, the car buyer? Brace yourself. The most direct impact: higher prices. Even companies trying to absorb costs can't do it forever. Tariffs will show up on the sticker. Whether you buy foreign or domestic, expect to pay more. American-made cars use imported parts too. You'll also see fewer choices as automakers drop niche models. The market will get less diverse and more expensive. Deals and discounts, those will shrink as profits get squeezed. The era of 0% financing and big incentives may be over. Ultimately, the end consumer pays the price for this policy. If you're shopping for a new car, brace for impact. So where do we go from here? The landscape for American workers and buyers is shifting beneath our feet, and the path forward is anything but clear. The road ahead is anything but smooth. Every turn seems to bring new challenges, and the horizon is clouded with uncertainty. American car workers face deep uncertainty. 40,000 jobs lost, and the promise of future employment is cold comfort. For many families, the loss of a steady paycheck means tough choices and sleepless nights as they wonder what comes next. For buyers, get ready for higher prices and fewer options. The days of walking into a dealership and picking from a wide selection are fading fast. The competitive, buyer-friendly market is being reshaped into one that's more expensive and less diverse. Shoppers will find themselves paying more for less, with fewer models and features to choose from. This isn't a temporary blip, it's a fundamental shift. The changes we're seeing now could last for years, or even decades, altering the industry in ways we can't yet predict. The industry will keep scrambling to adapt, with more companies boosting US manufacturing. But that takes years. Building new factories, retraining workers, and retooling supply chains is a slow, expensive process. In the meantime, automakers juggle terrible options, none of them easy or painless. They can absorb costs, raise prices, or cut models. Each choice comes with its own set of consequences affecting workers, buyers, and the future of the industry. The entire industry is in a defensive crouch trying to survive a policy meant to help them. Instead of thriving, companies are bracing for impact, hoping to weather the storm. It's a classic case of a solution being worse than the problem. The very measures designed to protect American jobs and industry have ended up hurting the people they were supposed to help. One policy, meant to protect American industry, has caused massive job losses and made life more expensive for millions. Families are left struggling to make ends meet, and communities are feeling the ripple effects. The road ahead is bumpy and uncertain. No one knows exactly what's around the next bend, and the journey will test the resilience of everyone involved. American workers and buyers will have to navigate it, making tough decisions and adapting to a new reality that's still taking shape. Good luck, you're going to need it. The coming years will demand patience, creativity, and determination from all of us.